In this short film, we're going to present 6 different lenses we can use to look at religion. Lens number 1, a vertical approach. When we think about religion, we usually think in terms of different religions: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, and so on. This is one useful way to categorise religious belief, practice, and tradition. Religions do have major internal differences, with sometimes vicious intra-religious disputes, but they're held together by central beliefs and practices they share. When we understand religion in these terms, our religious literacy will tend to focus on what each religion believes and central practices. And it's good to understand the typical core elements of religions. At the same time, it's important to remember that within any given religion, you'll find groups and individuals that don't believe what you've been taught. Thinking of the different religions as distinct units is not the only or necessarily the most helpful way to think. It can lead us to make generalizations and assumptions about the people around us instead of approaching them as individuals. And it can lead us to see religions as monolithic, static blocks instead of the diverse and dynamic, organic bodies they are. Let's explore some of the complementary ways of understanding religion that can also be helpful. Lens number 2, correct beliefs versus correct practice. Most religious traditions include both beliefs and practice. But within one and the same religion, different traditions place a different degree of importance on beliefs and practice. Within the Christian tradition, Protestantism has a strong focus on having the right beliefs, whilst the Orthodox tradition focuses much more strongly on the practice of the liturgy. Lens number 3, inner experience versus outward behaviour. Of course, all religions include elements of both inner spiritual experience and outward behaviour, but some religions, like Christianity, Islam and Judaism, are usually described as having a stronger outward focus, while Hinduism and Buddhism are usually described as having a greater focus on inner experience. Once again, the balance between these two elements varies enormously between different traditions within any given religion, and between individuals within these traditions. For example, Pentecostalism has a strong focus on feelings and experiencing spiritual gifts. Lens number 4, isolationist versus publicly engaged, and absolutist versus relativist. The degree to which religious communities engage in public life and the degree to which they are absolutist or relativist varies tremendously within religions. By absolutist, we mean that a group thinks that their beliefs and practices alone are absolutely true and correct to be followed without compromise in all situations. By relativist, we mean people or groups who think that your truth is true for you and my truth is true for me. The following tendencies can be found within all major religions and form a spectrum. Absolutist. People and groups with this approach regard all others as lost or damned, including or especially those who differ within their own religion. These groups may be peaceful, perhaps isolating themselves from society at large, or engaged but confrontational, aggressively imposing their beliefs and practices on others through coercion, threats, or even violence. Exclusivist. People and groups with this approach accept or tolerate differences among their own, but insist often assertively on their particular correctness. Other religions are considered to be untrue. They may or may not be socially engaged, but often engage in peaceful religious persuasion. Sometimes exclusivists are accused of coercion, for example when religious persuasion takes place in connection with the distribution of disaster relief. Tolerant. People and groups with this approach think their beliefs are the truth, but accept that others disagree and don't seek to change their minds. They may or may not engage in dialogue and cooperation with others. Relativist. People or groups with this approach suspend judgment on the correctness of belief. All roads lead to God. They often welcome cooperation and dialogue both within and between religions. Of course, all of this is a simplification. For example, some relativists are deeply intolerant of people who do not accept relativism. Lens number 5. Centralized versus decentralized. When it comes to how centralized decision-making, leadership and organisational structures are, there's enormous variation within religions. The Roman Catholic Church is highly centralized, whilst the Pentecostal movement is highly decentralized. Within Shia Islam, Ismailis have a centralized structure with a single hereditary leader, the Aga Khan, whilst the Twelver branch of Shia Islam is far less centralized. People's ideas about religious power and religious structures of authority often influence their ideas about how political and social power should be exercised, as well as people's willingness to accept or question power holders. And different traditions within the same religion can have very different approaches to how they should interact with the state or other power holders. Theological ideas can also influence people's ideas about how change happens. Does it come from below or above? Lens number 6. Religion as community. For a great many people, their appreciation of religious belief and practice links closely to their appreciation of the religious community to which they belong. Religion can be regarded as community in many different ways. As a community of worship, where the collective performance of rituals renews and restates a shared worldview. As a community of allegiance or loyalty to a human religious authority. As a community of interdependency, for example, where the religious communities share resources and care for one another. Or as a community of dependency, where control over resources is held by political power, legitimized by religious hierarchy. For many, if not most people, religious belief, practice, tradition, culture and community are an important part of their personal identity. It's part of what defines who they are, their self-perception and the way others perceive them. Some people perceive religion as a community of chosen identity, in which each member has actively chosen to accept beliefs, practices, and belonging. But for many people, religious identity is a communal identity, with cultural and often ethnic identities interwoven. In fact, many people consider themselves to have a religious identity and to be part of a religious community, even though they don't actively believe or practice their religion. This is known as belonging without believing. Perceiving religion as identity can sometimes be problematic. In some contexts, majority society or the state regards the majority religious identity as being synonymous with national identity. This usually creates problems for citizens who don't share that identity, particularly if they've left the majority religion for atheism or another religion. In some contexts, these people are regarded as disloyal or a threat to the nation. So there are many different ways of understanding religion as community, and these different understandings often overlap. Using these 6 lenses to look at religion helps us understand religion in ways that cut across traditions. The point of this is not to say that all religions are the same or to say anything at all about how true or good any particular religion or belief is. The point of the lenses is to help us understand the different roles religion plays in people's lives and in society, and to help us to meet others with openness, seeing the person or local community concerned, instead of the preconceived labels and stereotypes so often attached to them. When you reflect on your own religious tradition, can you recognise the kinds of diversity represented in the 6 lenses?